Thomas Frank arrived with credibility after impressive years at Brentford. He was respected for building structure, maximizing talent, and playing smart, organized football. But Tottenham is a different scale. Expectations are heavier, scrutiny is relentless. And when Spurs wobble, the conversation shifts quickly from patience to replacement. This is not about rumors for entertainment, it's about realistic options. If Tottenham move on from Frank, who steps in next? Let's break it down clearly, factually, and without the noise. First, understand the political environment. Tottenham's board does not make emotional decisions lightly. Historically, they hesitate before mid-season changes, but they also know that drifting can cost European qualification, sponsorship leverage, and global credibility, especially in the American market, where Premier League visibility keeps growing. Let's go through the realistic names. The first and most discussed option is Roberto De Zerbi. De Zerbi built serious credibility at Brighton. His teams dominated possession, pressed intelligently, and showed tactical bravery against elite opponents. He earned Premier League respect not because of hype, but because his structure was visible. Players improved under him. Supporters who crave attacking identity see him as a cultural fit. Tottenham historically leaned toward expressive football. De Zerbi represents clarity of style. But here's the honest part. He demands control. At previous clubs, tensions reportedly surfaced around recruitment alignment. If Spurs appoint him, the board must fully commit to his philosophy. Half measures would fail. Next, there's Graham Potter. Potter understands the Premier League deeply. His Brighton project before De Zerbi laid structural foundations. His Chelsea spell damaged his reputation, but context matters. Ownership instability, dressing room overload, unrealistic timelines. Those who dislike constant managerial politics argue Potter deserves a stable environment to rebuild credibility. He's calm, analytical, and long-term minded. Spurs could see him as a reset option rather than a headline grabber. Critics, however, question whether he carries enough authority for a club demanding immediate results. At Tottenham, perception matters as much as process. Then there's Julian Nagelsmann, if available. Nagelsmann represents elite tactical pedigree, young, innovative, comfortable in high-pressure environments. His Bayern Munich exit surprised many, but his football intelligence remains unquestioned. For American audiences increasingly appreciating tactical nuance, Nagelsmann would signal ambition. He's not a survival coach, he's a system builder. But here's the complication. Elite managers demand elite backing. Spurs would need to match his ambition financially and structurally. Another name quietly circulating in football circles is Mauricio Pochettino, a sentimental but complicated option. Pochettino built Tottenham's modern identity: Champions League final, consistent top four finishes, cultural transformation. Fans who dislike politics often say, "Stop looking backwards," and they're not wrong. Football rarely rewards nostalgia, but when clubs lose direction, sometimes they return to familiar architects. Would Pochettino come back? That depends on alignment, timing, and pride. It's not impossible, but it's not simple. Now let's talk about the experienced stabilizer profile. Antonio Conte previously showed that Spurs sometimes swing toward short-term authority when pressure spikes. If results deteriorate sharply, Tottenham could target a manager known for immediate defensive organization and discipline. But history shows that style clashes can quickly emerge when philosophies differ between board and coach. Midway through this breakdown, if you value fearless football analysis that doesn't recycle gossip, subscribe to Final Whistle Files. We analyze the power moves behind the headlines. Drop your top replacement choice in the comments. Back to the options. There's also the possibility of promoting from within temporarily. Clubs sometimes appoint an interim coach to stabilize dressing room morale while conducting a broader search. It's less glamorous but strategically cautious. However, Spurs supporters are impatient. An interim appointment may be viewed as hesitation, not leadership. Now, let's address something directly. Replacing Thomas Frank alone does not guarantee improvement. Spurs' instability over recent seasons reflects deeper structural questions: recruitment alignment, long-term identity, balance between attacking philosophy and defensive discipline. If they appoint Zerbi, they must buy players who fit possession dominance. If they appoint Potter, they must commit to gradual evolution. If they appoint Nagelsmann, they must empower innovation. Without structural alignment, any manager becomes a short chapter. Here's the economic reality. The Premier League's global broadcast power, especially in the United States, amplifies scrutiny. Tottenham's commercial value depends on competitiveness. Missing European qualification affects revenue streams. That's not speculation, that's business. Ownership weighs that carefully. Now, let's examine Thomas Frank's situation fairly. Frank is respected in coaching circles. He builds relationships. He communicates clearly. He does not deflect blame recklessly. Supporters who oppose political overreaction argue this: stability builds culture. Constant change breeds chaos. They point to Arsenal's patience with Mikel Arteta as evidence. But critics counter sharply. Arsenal's rebuild showed visible tactical identity even during losses. Tottenham's current direction feels less defined, and that perception drives pressure. Football is brutal that way. Managers are judged not only on results, but on trajectory. If the board believes trajectory is upward, Frank stays. If they believe stagnation is setting in, contingency plans accelerate. That's where these replacement names gain oxygen. Now, let's rank the likelihood realistically. Zerbi feels plausible if Spurs want stylistic clarity and progressive energy. Potter feels plausible if they want measured reset without fireworks. Nagelsmann feels ambitious but dependent on availability and financial alignment. Pochettino feels emotional but complicated. An interim feels cautious but uninspiring. The decision ultimately reflects Tottenham's self-image. Do they see themselves as a patient project club or an ambitious contender demanding bold change? That identity question matters more than any individual name, because Tottenham's biggest issue over the past decade hasn't been talent, it's been direction. And when direction wavers, managers become symbols rather than solutions. The smartest clubs move with clarity. The most reactive clubs move with panic. Spurs must choose carefully. One wrong appointment extends instability. One aligned appointment resets momentum. And for American fans increasingly invested in Premier League narratives, Tottenham's next move will shape global perception. This is more than a managerial shortlist. It's a referendum on Tottenham's future. If you've made it this far, you understand this story is about structure, not just names. Subscribe to Final Whistle Files for deeper football intelligence. Like the video, share your thoughts, and tell us who should replace Thomas Frank if change comes. Because in North London, decisions echo loudly, and the next one could define the next 5 years.